A filthy, muddy mess. Torrential rains hit Nevada's remote Black Rock Desert during the annual Burning Man Festival. As many as 70,000 people stranded.
Drowning Man update. We got 3/4 of an inch of rain.
Travel is impossible.
And there's about 70,000 people stranded on a barren lake bed. We're gonna bind together.
Get radically self-reliant. Dry out the furniture.
And keep the party going. Bury those negative thoughts in gratitude for your life. Because a couple people didn't make it last night.
There is no Ebola. FEMA's not here. Ebola's not here.
Here's the truth about what's going on at Burning Man. Yes, it's muddy. Yes, we're soaked. But the ethos right now is if we're going to be a mess, we might as well be a hot mess. And yes, someone did die while they were out here. This is in fact a natural disaster. People are terrified. We've pretty much run out of food. We're almost out of water. But the National Guard is on their way in right now. So we hope that'll help with something. I went to a party last night where they made quesadillas and bacon for everybody. This is a family and we are going to be just fine.
Tens of thousands, though, have been stranded in the mud for days after 2 to 3 months of rain swamped the area in just 24 hours.
On September 1st, the annual Burning Man festival held in Nevada's Black Rock Desert was plunged into chaos. Shelter-in-place orders were issued following the unseasonably heavy rainfall that turned the playa's fine sand into a thick, cakey mud, rendering cars, bicycles, and even porta-potty doors inoperable, and stranding over 70,000 people in the mud-caked desert, with limited food, potable water, and said porta-potties overflowing into the muck. Which is a good segue into today's sponsor, Colon Broom. Colon Broom is a high-fiber dietary supplement that uses the highest quality ingredients to support your gut microbiome and health. The active ingredient in Colon Broom is psyllium husk, which is a natural plant-derived source of viscous, soluble dietary fiber. In short, this means it's commonly used to treat both constipation and diarrhea. The folks at Colon Broom sent me their strawberry flavor, which is lovely, but the high-quality psyllium husk does tend to glom up a bit if you're not careful, so you want to shake it really, really well, like a cocktail shaker. Or you can take the blender route and just stick it in your blender or use an immersion blender to get it really, really mixed up. If you'd like to try some Colon Broom, you can use my link in the description, which guarantees you a discount, and then use the code HOOTS10 at checkout for an additional 10% off. Again, that's the tracking link in the description for the first discount, and then HOOTS10 at checkout for an additional 10% off. Thanks to Colon Broom for sponsoring this video. If you'd like to watch a version of this video without ads, head on over to patreon.com/littlehoot and become a patron, where you'll get ad-free versions of my videos, and they're usually released a little earlier there too. You know, when I haven't fallen completely behind and started exporting the video 3 hours before I said I was gonna post it. So the Burning Man Festival is flooded with rain and mud. Tens of thousands of people are stranded with limited food and water, plunging evening temperatures, and overflowing toilets. And to make matters worse, on social media, there are rumors that someone has died and that there has been an outbreak of an Ebola-like illness somewhere on the campsite. So now, a month after Burning Man has ended by the time this video comes out, you may be wondering, what the hell happened at Burning Man? Actually, you're probably not wondering that. You've probably forgotten about it. But pretend that you are for this video. You might even be wondering, Burning Man? What the hell is even that?
What the hell is even that?
Daddy, chill. I'm literally a YouTuber. It's my job to know these things for you. Burning Man is essentially a multi-day arts festival held in Black Rock City, a temporary city raised by Burning Man attendees, colloquially known as burners, each year in the Black Rock Desert, about 120 miles north of Reno, Nevada. The festival concludes each year with the burning of the titular man, a gigantic wooden effigy filled with fireworks. It's been described as a hallucinogenic state fair, Mad Max meets Cirque du Soleil, and a week-long cyber hippie carnival. The entire event is very Grimes-coded. Burning Man had its humble beginnings in San Francisco in 1986, when eventual Burning Man founders, Larry Harvey and Jerry James, held a bonfire with friends on Baker Beach, a stretch of coastline with views of the Golden Gate Bridge. According to legend, the pair burned an 8-foot-tall effigy, an idea they'd gotten from the friend of a girlfriend, to mark the end of a romantic relationship. Incredible vibes. Show-stopping. 11 out of 10. We should all burn effigies when when we go through any kind of a breakup. Breaking up with your girlfriend, falling out with a friend, getting fired from your place of employment for spending too much time playing Stardew Valley on the company computer. It's really just nice to ritualize these mundane life experiences a bit more. It's giving hail to the guardians of the watchtowers of the East. Depending on the telling, a crowd of around 20 to 35 people gathered to watch this 8-foot wooden man burn on Baker Beach, and Harvey and James decided to turn the burning of the man into an annual tradition there until the fire marshals intervened in 1990. That was the year Burning Man moved to Black Rock. The crowd of revelers at that point had grown to around 350 people, and the man had grown to around 40 feet tall. By the mid-2000s, the event drew in tens of thousands of people and lasted a little over a week. It became a thing, the Burning Man we are all familiar with today. Harvey and James eventually founded Burning Man LLC and then Black Rock City LLC, which was eventually sold to the Burning Man Project, a nonprofit that now runs the event and maintains its various property assets via 3 other limited liability corporations. All this is to say, Burning Man is a big deal, and it has been since the mid-1990s. There are a few things that make Burning Man a unique festival experience. It has no headliners, no official schedule of events. Everything that happens at Burning Man is put on by the attendees, be it a massive art installation, a free concert, a rave, or a sex party in the Orgy Dome. Burning Man is also guided by a set of 10 principles laid out by Larry Harvey in 2004. Among them, decommodification, gifting, radical self-reliance, radical self-expression, and leaving no trace. There are no commercial sponsorships at Burning Man, and money may not be used to purchase anything at Burning Man save for some coffee and ice in the center camp. So you have this cool atmosphere where attendees will set up a pop-up bar or sandwich shop and just start gifting free cocktails or food to other attendees. The event also fosters resourcefulness and being a silly little guy. Costumes are encouraged to the point of being low-key kind of mandatory, and while no one will make you pay for your gifted Bacardi and Coke, someone might ask you to sing a song or make up a poem as payment. Leaving no trace is perhaps the most famous tenet of Burning Man. Each year, an entire city is erected and torn down by burners, and the cleanup effort is an arduous, days-long process in which every piece of moop, matter out of place, from abandoned vehicles to the tiniest sequin, is painstakingly removed from the playa. Just put a pin in that, the leaving no trace thing, for just a moment. So what happened at Burning Man this year? Nevada received a torrent of unseasonably heavy rains, turning the very fine dust of the playa into incredibly thick, incredibly sticky clay, making it nigh on impossible to even move by foot, much less by car or RV. That fine dust is also incredibly alkalized, so the attendees caked in mud were probably also dealing with not insignificant burns anywhere mud was touching skin. Burning Man attendees at Black Rock City were told to shelter in place and not risk trying to leave the playa and getting stuck in the expanse of muddy desert. And any attendees on the outside were told not to attempt to come to Black Rock City. Burners prepare for inclement weather on the inhospitable playa, where temperatures during the festival have been known to soar above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But the rain and the mud presented an especially challenging environment. And it came at the worst time, near the end of the event, when people's food and supplies were low. It had even seasoned burners like Cory Doctorow questioning whether the event could carry on at Black Rock City. In a guest essay for the New York Times, he wrote,
2 consecutive years of brutal weather, one ferociously hot, one miserably wet, has many burners, including me, rethinking our attendance. It's hard enough to prepare for all the contingencies of a hot, dry desert. Throw in water and mud, and the contingencies multiply into towering, demoralizing heaps. The Black Rock Desert is one of the most beautiful places in the world, and the contrast between the harsh environment and the art, food, dancing, and fun made it an unforgettable, uniquely wonderful experience. After last year's brutal conditions, that texture grew too rough for many of us, and there was lots of talk about whether the event would move again, whether the Black Rock Desert had tipped from nearly totally unsuitable for human habitation to unsurvivable.
A man did die this year, 32-year-old Leon Reese, but his death doesn't appear to be related to the rains and flooding, rather a tragic drug overdose. Deaths do happen at Burning Man from time to time, from overdoses, accidents, or the occasional suicide, but they're surprisingly rare for an event that draws so many people to such an inhospitable environment where they drink and do so many drugs. Like, a hangover in a tent in the desert alone would kill me, but a big chunk of these festival attendees are also rolling and not dying of dehydration. Like, honestly, good for them. That is some fortitude. And rumors of Ebola were probably born from a hoax or joke on social media. Put a pin in that too. Actually, why don't you use the same pin that you used to pin up the Leaving No Trace thing, because we're gonna take that down and talk about that now. Leaving No Trace is what the Burning Man Project website calls arguably Burning Man's most important principle. The website specifically identifies burners as environmentalists and features several pages of tips and hints for minimizing waste, moop, and your carbon footprint while at the event. The Afterburn cleanup is a project as much mercenary as it is altruistic. The Bureau of Land Management oversees the event, issuing the Burning Man Project their permits to hold the event each year, and surveying the playa each October to ensure the cleanup was sufficient. The Burning Man Project has spent years in legal disputes with the Bureau, claiming that they are being overcharged for the $2.9 million they spend in annual permit fees, while the Bureau claims that it spends about that much just overseeing the event. So, with this tension in mind, burners are incentivized to make sure that playa looks fucking spotless by October, or Daddy Uncle Sam might not issue a permit for next year. But beyond the playa, the Burning Man Project insists that Leaving No Trace is their ethic for the whole planet. It may surprise you to learn then that people left a lot of stuff behind. Shoes, furniture, bicycles, vans caked in drying mud. It may surprise you that this is what Reno looks like when the people who took their moop with them reach a city other than Black Rock. That a cottage industry of garbage haulers charging burners leaving the campsite $5 per trash bag can expect to make up to $25,000 per person over the days-long exodus from Black Rock City. That burners called the cops on a group of climate activists who were blocking the road to Burning Man, protesting the organizers' failure to ban single-use plastics or private jets. Those protesters were arrested after an officer pulled a gun on them and said, "I'm going to take you all out," just as a cute little sidebar. Or maybe it doesn't surprise you if you're familiar with a not insignificant chunk of Burning Man's annual attendees.
Cheetah Cowboy here, coming to you live from Burning Man. Now, does this look like a national emergency to you? I don't think so. Don't always believe what you see on the news, folks. We're having a great time.
Oh, my social media pin. Almost forgot about that. So on Twitter, Drowning Man was basically Fire Festival 2.0. The reason people on social media were taking such mirth at the expense of trapped, muddy burners this year is, well, it's because social media is a wicked place where people openly delight in the misery of others. But it's because in a lot of elite circles, attending Burning Man has the same kind of cultural cachet as climbing Mount Everest or going on a meditation retreat to take ayahuasca. It's this kind of spiritually charged event with a very high barrier of entry. Tickets this year cost around $1,500 to $2,750, not counting vehicle passes. There are lots of free or discounted gifted tickets as part of their principle, but a lot of those are also given to celebrities, influencers, and corporate donors as part of the Burning Man Project's annual marketing budget. So even getting your hands on a free or discounted gifted ticket is often a matter of knowing the right people. And remember, there's nothing there when you get to the playa. You have to have camping equipment, gifts to give out, party drugs, costumes. It can quickly add up to several thousands of dollars for the week. And then burner influencers get on Instagram and TikTok and brag about enduring this very expensive, very privileged brand of self-imposed hardship that's considered a little gauche in the year of our Lord 2023. It's bougie, it's hard to relate to, and it's easy to mock. And very much like Mount Everest or ayahuasca retreats, if you have the money, You don't even need to do the self-imposed hardship part. You can hire Sherpas and servants who will do everything for you, including setup and cleanup. This is certainly frowned upon by the Burning Man Project and by older burners, and the organization has a system in place to ban any camps that violate the principle of radical inclusion, called turnkey camps by the burners, by excluding any other attendees. In 2014, there was a very infamous incident with a camp called Camp Caravansicle that charged attendees $16,500 per head to stay there and kept other burners out with a wristband system. One of the employees, who was paid $180 a day plus a gifted ticket to work at Camp Caravansicle, wrote a blog post about her experience there that kind of blew up within the burner community and resulted in the Burning Man Project officially taking a stand against these turnkey camps. Oh yeah, and Camp Caravansicle was the project of Jim Tannenbaum, a venture capitalist and member of the Burning Man board of directors. Which kind of brings me to the heart of the issue here. Every year there's concern among burners that Burning Man is turning corporate, that tech bros and celebrities are going to take over, and next year will be Burning Man 2020 whatever, brought to you by AT&T. That Burning Man is changing thanks to the rich. But it's not, though. This is what it's always been. Silicon Valley tech bros, venture capitalists, and wealthy libertarians have been an integral part of its ecosystem since the dot-com boom of the mid-1990s. Hell, they're Burning Man's lifeblood. The current CEO of the Burning Man Project, Marian Goodall, is a staunch conservative who bragged in an article for the San Francisco Gate about her sister's godfather being conservative Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia and running Burning Man with very fiscally conservative policies. Even Burning Man's famously progressive founder, Larry Harvey, claimed he was not anti-capitalist, not a hippie, and not a revolutionary. Rather, he insisted that he had a very conservative sensibility in an interview with the Financial Times, and a Guardian article about Burning Man's very white, very wealthy demographics quoted him as saying that Burning Man's goals were not to set up a Marxist state in response to a suggestion that the organization might institute some kind of demographic quotas. As a sidebar, when Burning Man was criticized for being mostly white, Harvey got into some hot water for suggesting that Black people didn't want to come to Burning Man because they don't like camping as much as white people. He tried to explain that the Black aversion to camping he alluded to was due to a history of subjugation and slavery in the U.S., and that this theory was one he came up with after talking to Black burners and members of his own family. His ex-wife is Black and his son is biracial. But it was a weird comment. I actually watched a mini documentary about Black burners on YouTube as part of the research for this video. I'll link it below. It was really interesting, and the Black burners interviewed in the documentary reported that while at Burning Man, they felt on the whole more at ease and less discriminated against than in the real world. And I would be remiss in not mentioning that. The documentary seemed to suggest that one of the hurdles in getting Black people to show up to Burning Man in the first place is maybe less generational trauma over camping and more that for Black Americans, a bunch of white people standing around a burning effigy, let's just say it's very evocative imagery that communicates a very different message depending on the context.
At the end of Burning Man, there was the ritual burning of the man. This huge inferno rises up. As I was dancing around the fire, I had this one moment. I was scared. I thought that the almost all-white crowd that was nearly all drunk or high were going to throw me in as a joke into the fire. I have to ask myself, why did I have that thought? And I realized because the history that I was coming from is that when white people start getting happy or have fun or get drunk, and that they act out in racist ways.
For at least the last decade, Burning Man has turned into one of the biggest networking events for tech and finance entrepreneurs. Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk are regular attendees, as are Google founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page, and Silicon Valley types have literally secured jobs working for these tech titans after meeting them on the playa. Some CEOs even take their entire teams with them to Burning Man as a kind of hardcore corporate team-building event. A 2014 article about the phenomenon in the San Francisco Gate relates this particularly cursed anecdote.
Serial entrepreneur and Haight District resident Richard Titus was trying to finish a deal last year between his company and Yahoo. but he kept butting heads with Yahoo's very stubborn London lawyer. In late August, they both emailed each other to say they'd be on vacation and that this potentially doomed negotiation would just have to pause. A few days later, Titus was riding shirtless on a dune buggy that had been decorated to look like a scorpion when an attractive young woman jumped in and sat on his lap. Slowly, he started to recognize her voice.
I said, "Don't freak out, but what do you do in the real world? Because I think we might know each other."
He said.
She was like,
"I'm a lawyer at Yahoo, why?"
"After that, I'll tell you what, negotiations went much smoother,"
said Titus, who's in his mid-40s.
"I like to think she even looked forward to my phone calls."
This same article relates a story of a woman who quit her job as a pediatrician to head 4 different health-related startups. She speculates that the connection between Burning Man and Silicon Valley is a philosophical one.
The tech scene has this sense that you can do anything, build anything, no rules. Burning Man is all about that, so it's a really conducive place for those conversations to start.
In an article for Jacobin, Keith A. Spencer comes to a similar conclusion, but from a much more critical perspective.
In a just, democratic society, everyone has equal voice. At Burning Man, everyone is invited to participate, but the people who have the most money decide what kind of society Burning Man will be. They commission artists of their choice and build to their own whims. They also determine how generous they are feeling and whether to withhold money. It might seem silly to quibble over the lack of democracy in the governance of Black Rock City. After all, why should we care whether Jeff Bezos has commissioned a giant metal unicorn or a giant metal pirate ship? Or whether Tannenbaum wants to spend $2 million on an air-conditioned camp? But the principles of these tech scions, that societies are created through charity, and that the true world builders are the rich and privileged, don't just play out in the Burning Man fantasy world, they carry over into the real world, often with less than positive results. The top-down, do what you want, radically express yourself, and fuck everyone else worldview is precisely why Burning Man is so appealing to the Silicon Valley technocratic scions. Do these young tech workers, mostly white, mostly men, who flock to the festival, Burning Man reinforces and fosters the idea that they can remake the world without anyone else's input. It's a rabid libertarian fantasy. It fluffs their egos and tells them that they have the power and right to make society for all of us, to determine how things should be. This is the dark heart of Burning Man. The reason that high-powered capitalists, and especially capitalist libertarians, love Burning Man so much. It heralds their ideal world, one where vague notions of participation replace real democracy, and the only form of taxation is self-imposed charity.
Look, a lot of burners are going to come at me for this one. They're going to say that I just don't get it, and you know what? No, I don't get it. I'll never be the kind of person with the desire to spend more than twice her rent on the opportunity to not shower for a week. And a lot of leftist burners are going to be salty with me for going so hard on an event that at least tries to promote a vision of a better world when it could just be another Coachella. But Burning Man's lofty aims are exactly why I'm going in so hard on it. Coachella and Glastonbury aren't trying to claim that listening to live music is an inherently radical act while subtly reifying the worldview of libertarian technocrats. I'm not trying to cancel Burning Man or fun or whatever here. I think the art is beautiful. I think any excuse to throw a party is a good excuse. But I can see how an event like this can placate as many people as it radicalizes. Probably more, if we're being honest. I think if you're a burner who really believes in the anarchic socialist vision of Burning Man, maybe that version of the event is better expressed in the handful of regional burns held throughout the year. Maybe the big burn has been gentrified past that utopian view. Maybe the barrier of entry has been made too high at Black Rock City, and the burners need to finally do what they've always promised and bring that spirit to the rest of the world. The alternative is the libertarian technocrats. And you know what? If I'm totally wrong or off base, feel free to yell at me in the comments about it. I read every comment because I'm a glutton for pain. If your arguments are convincing enough, maybe I'll post a retraction video. Probably not, though. Okay, bye!
What
What's up, baby? So here's the truth about what's really going on with the Titanic.
Yes, it's sinking. Yes, we're soaked.
It's even sinking right now. But the ethos right now is if this ship's gonna sink,
We might as well go down with it.
Or get down with it.
We may not be able to attend the ship's ball or jaunt upon the deck anymore, so everyone is just running around and screaming.
We're actively drowning.
And yes, someone did die out here, along with 1,496 other people so far. This is in fact a historical tragedy and people are terrified.
Pretty much the boat is upside down and we're almost underwater.
But the band is still playing right now. So we hope that'll help with something. But this is so community-based.
Yeah.
Every single person on this boat is helping every single person on this boat. This guy we just met looted a kitchen and gave us a bottle of whiskey. Yeah. We're a family. We're taking care of each other.
I personally yet haven't had my breakdown about this because I think that if I let this get to me, it's gonna overpower me. So I'm just trying to stay positive and stay smiley.
But it is a wee bit terrifying, but social media is making it out to be way worse than it is.
So yeah, like 2,240 people might be at the bottom of the ocean tonight, but we didn't really plan to dock until tomorrow or the next day anyway, so we're really only losing 2 days on the trip. So we've probably got another 30 minutes before we're completely submerged. So us personally, we're just gonna keep staying and partying, baby.
Cheers!
Anyways, we love you guys. Thank you to everyone who's worrying about us, and thank you to everyone who sent letters and telegrams.
But we are gonna be just fine. We may be drowning and the life rafts may be full. So just send us all the light love you've got. We love you guys.